So Bob, I'm just going to be running, I'll be running the slideshow. So let me know if you want me to go back or forward or whatever.
No, I think we can probably, well, I'll let you know, but I think we'll go forward all the way.
Should be straightforward. Yeah, I agree.
I noticed that Pierrette from OMAFRA has joined us this evening. Pierrette is connected, of course, with our grassroots fund that we got to do the strategic plan, and she's also located in Northern Ontario. So maybe Dan, I don't know whether you've met Pierrette or not, but good person, two good people to meet. You know, Dan and Tracy and Pierrette. Maybe if you haven't met each other, it might be apropos.
Yes, we have met.
We're up to 19 people. I don't know how, or 20 now. So I guess we should be starting fairly soon, not to penalize those people that showed up on time. What do you think?
We've got 7:32. Let's just give it one more minute.
All right, sure, Frank.
And I think we're just about there for the amount that's been registered. I think we're one or two shy.
Oh, okay.
I also noticed that Joel Moore is on this evening. Joel did his PhD on how OMSPA functions. A number of you might have been interviewed. He's on faculty up at Lakehead now, and will be one of our speakers at the summer tour. I don't mean to necessarily draw him out at this point, but I thought it'd be apropos to know that we have some interest from different places. So there he is. He's waving at us.
Hello, everyone.
And he's looking to meet more people up in the northern portion of Ontario. I think you've reached out to Northwestern, or you're in the process of doing that. So excellent.
Thank you for being on tonight, Joel. All right, we'll begin tonight with benefiting the producers directly. Most of you should know that I am Frank Herkins, president of the Ontario Maple Syrup Association. And and we have two pillars tonight that we'll be talking about. One with Phil Thomas, Applied Research and Training, who will speak first. And the second will be from Bob Snyder at Member Services. After each one, we will have a short discussion and any questions and stuff that can be brought forward. John Williams at this point will bring forth the rules of the discussions tonight and how things will operate.
Hi, Frank. Are we going to do in between, or I think they're bouncing back and forth? So if Phil would be better just to do questions at the end.
It's whichever is best for both of them.
Yeah,
I think that would be better. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that at the end. That'll be fine.
Okay.
So at the end of both those pillars, then we will open it up for discussion.
Sure, sounds good. And just a reminder to everyone to please be respectful, and that we're having a short discussion on points you're interested in tonight. We'd appreciate it if you would send in any written comments at all. That's very helpful. And if you're looking to, make a longer argument in support of something or against, then that's the best way to do it, because we've got over 20 people on here tonight, and we'd like to give everybody an opportunity to contribute. By no means am I trying to say that we are limiting discussion. It's just that we cannot go down deep holes on topics. We need to give room for discussion with everyone. And feel free also to post any questions you have or comments in the chat too, because we'll be saving that and also referring to it for questions at the end. Phil and Bob, have I missed anything there? Anything you'd like to add before we get started?
No, I think we're good to go.
Okay. There we go. Phil.
First of all, Phil Thomas, Bob and I will be sharing this presentation this evening. And I just first of all like to thank you for attending this session. The objective here is to really outline our progress today. In a broad sense, we'll start off ping-ponging back and forth between Bob and myself on the strategic plan methodology that we've been undertaking for now pretty much a little more than a year. And then the specific objective tonight is to outline two elements of the strategic plan, or pillars as we're calling them these days. And we're definitely looking for input on where we are and any suggestions on enhancements going forward. So as I said, as is already mentioned, the two areas or pillars we're going to be talking about tonight are member services, which Bob will be covering, and applied research and training, which is in my domain. So I will just pass along to Bob now to talk a little bit about the process.
Good evening, I'm Bob Snyder. So to help focus the limited resources on the activities that deliver the most value to Ontario maple products producers, every 5 years, OMSPA conducts a detailed strategic review. This review evaluates progress against the previous established goals, examines how the Ontario maple products market is evolving and what this meant for producers, and develops a deep understanding of the needs and wants of OMSPA members. The outcome of this 5-year strategic plan that establishes the strategic priorities for the organization and lays out the roadmap for achieving these priorities. Bill?
Yeah, so just again, as context, as I'm sure most of us know, we had a number of working groups that were established to prepare the draft of the strategic plan. And in fact, it was a really great participation by our membership. As it says there in the slide, over 100 members, which is better than 1 in 6 of our membership were involved with the development of the plan, as well as a number of outside experts. So there are 10 working groups that are listed there on the left side of the slide. I think it was a really strong effort done by all, and really like to thank everybody for their input into that into the work that's been done so far. So anyway, the output of that is a recommendation on the strategic plan going forward, and that will be discussed over the next little while, and we'll look to finalize it at a board meeting early in 2023. So back to you, Bob.
Yep. So 2 key statements that are in the strategic plan are the vision statement and the mission statement. The vision statement, which is there in front of you, I'm just going to read through it. OMSPA envisions a robust and growing maple products industry in Ontario that embraces the highest standards of quality assurance and professionalism to provide exceptional maple products to Ontario, Canadians, and international markets under a brand that is synonymous with the highest quality. The growing Ontario industry embraces all producers, from the hobbyist to the largest commercial operations, as well as the other links in the maple product value chain, including bottlers, equipment manufacturers, and other food industry players and researchers, building on and honoring the rich tradition of maple syrup production in Ontario. So this is the vision that's being laid out for the Ontario maple products industry. The mission statement is how OMSPA looks to move forward. The Ontario Maple Syrup Producers Association provides leadership and stewardship of Ontario maple products production, working on behalf of producers and the maple products value chain to support and drive adoption of the best practices through ongoing education and training to increase the value of the market for Ontario maple syrup through marketing and promotional activities, and to work through government advocacy towards a policy climate that aligns with the needs of producers and the entire maple products value chain. So this is how OMSPA sees moving forward to meet the vision statement. So.
Phil, you're on mute.
I guess it's important to unmute. Okay, so yeah, so the strategic plan is broken down into a number of pillars, and I think Bob will describe that a little bit more in the next slide. But these pillars comprise 6 elements, as you can see there. And the ones that are bolded are the ones we're going to be talking about tonight: applied research and training and member services. The other 4, which will be discussed in the next 2 nights, are governance, quality assurance, marketing, branding, and government and industry relations. So just wanted, again, this really is just to give context for our discussion over the next few nights. And from that, we'll go on directly to the a little more detail on what those pillars encompass.
So what you have in front of you is what we call the logic model. And across the top is a short sentence, which is described as the ultimate outcome for OMSPA. And that is to increase the economic value for Ontario maple syrup producers. Below that, we have intermediate outcomes, each connected to one of the 6 pillars. So tonight we're going to talk about member services and applied research and training. So the immediate outcomes for those 2 are to provide significant value to members and their operations. And below that, we have member services. And the other immediate outcome is realize premium pricing for Ontario maple syrup due to differentiation based on quality. And below that, we have applied research. So each of those pillars, of the 6 pillars, have an outcome that summarizes the direction of that pillar. And so for member services, it is to optimize the services and benefits OMSPA provides to its members. And for applied research and training, it is to develop Ontario's capacity for applied research and training focused on Ontario maple production. So member services. So the member engagement working group, which was formed in the fall of 2021, did a fairly extensive survey. We had a fairly significant response. And from that, we received a lot of information about what members felt was important and how they felt that the organization was performing. So building on the 2 immediate, the intermediate outcome and the immediate outcome, which is to optimize services and benefits. The outputs in the strategic plan for member services, one is to secure leadership to optimize the membership services. And there's a list of activities that will be followed. The second step is a comprehensive evaluation of OMSPA member services with concrete recommendations for the optimization and improvement. The third step is detailed operational plan for optimizing member services to be ratified by the board. And then OMSPA staff and committee members will execute the operational plan. This is a way of saying that the process will include looking at everything that OMSPA does for its members, determine what is working, what's not working, what could be improved, what doesn't need to be improved, and then proceed to make those improvements. It'll be an iterative process over time, over the 5-year cycle, where benefits that are currently being provided will be improved. Possibly some benefits such as access to trees or carbon credits may be added after careful consideration. But the whole goal here is to improve the benefits that members receive for belonging as members of OMSPA. Phil?
Okay, now moving to another pillar, which is the applied research and training. We had yet another working group working through this particular element, and a few things were identified. First of all, our research and training in Ontario is for maple products is really not very not very good compared to what other areas are doing. It's really, I mean, to be blunt, unfunded and unorganized, and that's actually listed in the presentation that I hope many of you have had a chance to look at on the OMSPA website. That's sort of the bad news. The good news, though, is that there is significant work being done in other areas, in Quebec, Vermont, New York in particular. And there's no need for us to reinvent the wheel. I think we need to be looking at how we can leverage what's being done elsewhere to the needs that we have within our membership group. In addition to sort of the research and training, one of the things that's kind of fallen by the wayside over the last several years is the sort of the extension stuff that many of our more senior producers will remember. That really is not happening now, but we need to figure out how we can adapt what's being done elsewhere to the needs that we have within our organization. So why is this important? That's, I guess, the important question. It's important because we really want to be able to put the Ontario maple products in a kind of higher tier so that we can realize premium pricing going forward based on quality. And that quality in large part is due to, can be delivered through improved training for our producers and sort of indirectly through applied research to really look at what can we do on the research front to help us improve our quality and productivity too. So those are the intermediate outcomes and intermediate outcomes. I guess some of the sort of market factors. The demand. The good news is that demand for maple products is increasing in Ontario. We actually don't deliver. We deliver just a modest percentage of the total consumption in the province, which is something that you could look at as an opportunity to improve. As well, with this increased demand, there's a problem a little bit with demographics that there's a shortage of skilled labor and business operations going forward if we look down the road a few years out. So we need to figure out how we can improve that through training, even at the sort of college level. So all that being said, what could we do to sort of address that opportunity or threat, I guess you could say. So the proposal in the strategic plan is to put together an applied research and training center within the province. As you can see, there's one of the outputs in the chart that you can see in front of you. That is not a trivial activity. So there's a fairly long timeline to get this working, including a proposal put to the board by the end of next year. And then for this to really be effective, we do need some funding. We don't have funding at the moment with the membership, basically the budget we've got. So we need to look at how can we get that funding, and the obvious target would be government funding through different approaches. That will take some time to get in place. We do already have a letter of intent with Algonquin College. They look like a good target. They have a lot of things in place already, and they're in an area that does have significant maple production in the province. So we'd have to work with them, as you can see there. Work together with them to get an agreement put together, targeting that for a couple of years out. And then the advanced research or applied research and training program would be started, organized, and then started towards the end of 2025 into 2026. And at that point, we would be able to then use that facility to provide the training and organize or curate the research that's being done in the maple industry that would be directly applicable to our needs here in Ontario. So that's the overall objective in the strategic plan. It's kind of a long. It's going to take several years to execute, but that is what we are proposing that we would do. So what is this Smart Center? So there's essentially, as I said before, we've got on the positive side, there's a lot of good work that's being done in both in the applied research and also in sort of training activities that have been done to some extent within the trainings to some extent within our locals. So there's some curating, I think, that would make sense to make sure that we've got something solid for use by the entire membership. So there's this idea of a clearinghouse would be to do a few things, to identify the research and training needs in Ontario and find the resources to meet those needs either internally or externally, and organize training vehicles to deliver that training to the membership. So that's what would be involved. I hope that you can see the cursor. So there's a number of areas that where we would look for input from the membership and the board of OMSPA and other maple organizations and government. And then we'd have a committee that would synthesize all of that stuff into directives for this proposed applied research and training center. Would also be leveraging what we've got, what's already available within our locals from Quebec, Vermont, New York, and other areas, and also look for other and that's existing supply, and also look at the new supply that will be coming in over the next few years. And then the output of this center would be these things that you can see listed here. So seminars and workshops for our membership, more detailed work, possible short courses over a few days, and conditional on what we decide to do at the organizational level, possibility to develop a training that would result in certification for various aspects of maple production. And related to this idea of demographics and working through what we've, the pending shortage of skilled labor and business acumen. This could be part of a diploma or degree program, probably out of Algonquin College. And the final thing, based on some feedback from some surveys, virtual training is also a significant opportunity for us. The technology is improving, as we've all seen through COVID. So, videos or webinars or that sort of thing. So that's the proposal for the Advanced Research and Training Center. And actually, I think now we're actually done the presentation part. It was a fairly short and sweet presentation. So I'll just stop my sharing, and I guess we can invite comments.
Okay, Bob, any last words?
No, no, I think I'm fine, Frank.
Okay. So we're going to move on to questions and discussions in this. And I forgot to mention earlier on that going back to our initial webinar, that it was long. I admit to that. It was very long. There was lots of information there, and probably too much information to digest at once. And that's why the executive and the committee members of these working groups have come forward and said, let's break this down over 3 nights, that we can make it more into bite-sized pieces, try to understand what we are doing, and then they can comment back, and whether it's a yay or nay, or any improvements, or maybe aspects that they believe maybe should not be in it. But anyways, going forward, hopefully we can make a better product out of this.
Could I suggest, if there's not any immediate comments or jumping out, do we want to share the screen again and go back to a couple of those slides and ask for comment on them
That's a good idea, John.
to try and focus it? We could go right back to the beginning, like number 4 or ask for comment on the vision statement and the mission statement, if anyone. Please feel free to unmute yourself or put a question or comment in the chat. I've got that open.
As my mother used to say, all questions are good questions. Jules wants to know if you can expand on the MART a little bit more.
Yeah, Jules, what specifically are you? I mean, this is something. Let me just pull up this chart. That's probably the best way to talk about it. So the work here is significant, as I mentioned, and will take some time to pull together. But there's no question that we within the province of Ontario are well behind sort of the best practices of other organizations, other geographical organizations. So this Applied Research and Training Center is a way to address that deficiency. Leveraging what's already available, for sure we want to do that. And as I said, the Algonquin College, we do have a letter of intent, at least in principle. There's some capabilities that they could bring with respect to sort of the academic side of things and the way to organize training and that sort of, and even just administrative aspects, which I think would be beneficial to us. And they're definitely interested in adding this to their suite of offerings that they have as a college.
Phil, Jules was asking, what's the acronym stand for?
That's the easier question. So MAPLE,
Yeah.
Advanced Research and Training, or Applied Research and Training.
And there's a question from Bill Hubbard in the chat here. A number of pillars identify government funding. I'm having a hard time to see in the chart what happens if funding is not forthcoming.
John, it's Randall. I probably could answer that because it's going to fall very squarely into the government and industry relations basket.
Okay.
First thing we've done is show how all the other jurisdictions have got significant amounts of funding, both for their research and education and direct support of their organizations. That is just basically putting the issue forward, but you can't just talk about how we haven't got the same support as other provinces and other states have. We actually have to demonstrate how what we're going to do addresses economic development and items of that concern. And so that is what the big task of government relations, government and industry relations is going to have to be. If we cannot move, they say, funding from government or other parties to assist us, we're only going to be able to move as far as we can get funding for. And we're going to move at that speed, let's put it that way. I think all the objectives and the pillars are good things to strive for. The speed of achieving them is based upon raising funds.
Bill, do you want to add a corollary or ask for a clarification on that, or? Or does that answer your question? Okay, don't see or hear Bill coming on there. Let me just flick to the bottom of the chat here.
I did unmute John, if it's not too late.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. I can't see everybody all the time with the screen share, so you have to speak up. Yeah.
No problem, John. No, I don't want to belabor the point. I just, and I understand, I understand what Randall's saying as far as, you can't, if you want to get some funding to do something, you have to make the case that you need the funding. But this document is not just a background document to take to government to receive funding. It's also our internal strategic plan. So the members need to know what we're going to do. So if the answer on pillars that have funding identified, significant government funding identified at the very start, then with sort of no plan B in terms of what we do if we don't get there, then that means nothing happens, sort of thing. So it is important in an internal document or any internal discussion for members to understand what happens if you have, this is what we do with full funding, this is what we do with, if we have partial funding, this is what we do, or no funding, sort of thing. So I think we probably should pay some more attention to that, to outline to members, so that we know as members just what's going to happen if we're not successful in getting all the funding. Because what happens when you have a number of different committees, all the committees that worked on this, they all want lots of money, but when you put it all together, it might be a significant amount, right?
It adds up. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Makes sense.
If I could probably address that in pillar 6 when we talk about government and industry relations, that will be tomorrow evening. We can go deeper on that. We have built into our planning process a timeline to secure things. And so securing funds from government is not the responsibility of each pillar. Designing what it is that's required and the rationale for the pillars have that responsibility, but finding the funds becomes the responsibility of pillar 6, which is government and industry relations. So, and you can only really do that by having an ongoing relation with different government bodies, federal and provincial.
Okay, Randall, I'm going to move on to the next one, if that's all right. We've got Chris Wagler has asked in the chat, is this with the intention of eventually making certification mandatory. I guess that's might be better left for another night, but I don't know if that fits directly here.
I don't think it fits in here, John, so.
But then, do you want to make a quick comment on that while we're there? In case Chris can't come back on another night?
Well, I know under the research applied and training program that that's not a mandatory certification. It's as you saw, a diploma, degree, trainings, and certifying to do certain things. It has nothing to do with a broad basis because not everybody will be going to Algonquin College to get this. This is strictly more a different process.
And in that case, certification might be a certification that a certificate that you've taken reverse osmosis repair training or something like that. It doesn't mean the maple syrup is certified. That means there's a certificate you get for certain elements of things.
But is there like, it's Jules here, Randall, would there be like at one point a certified program for I've become a student in maple syrup industry and here's my certificate of diploma? I think maybe that's what Mr. Wagner is asking here. So would that happen?
Yeah, currently Algonquin College has an agricultural business program. It's now in its fourth year. They offer a crop specialty. They offer a livestock specialty. And our letter of intent is to offer a maple syrup specialty. And so you would get if you are on a 2-year diploma, you get a diploma in agricultural business with emphasis in maple syrup production. That would be.
Yeah, I see there's a question in the chat and I have it too for Chris. What do you mean by certification? If you can type a message or unmute, Chris. It's fairly...
Can you hear me okay there?
Yep.
Yeah, so what I meant by certification was what it said in the comments there, to make a certification program. So my question is, like, is this eventually going to move down the road towards something that you're looking at making mandatory? That's like the comments that were in that slide that Phil showed. It said in there, like, making a certification program. I was referring to that.
There we go. Go back to that slide. Yes. Okay, there you are.
Where is it there? I can't see it.
Chris,
I don't.
oh, maybe this training at levels resulting in certificates. I mean, this is as I think Randall mentioned, it could be you could get a certificate on a specific aspect. It's not meant to be certifying the overall operation.
Yeah, my question was, like, is this eventually going to move toward that? That's my concern. That's why I raised the question. I'm like thinking, is this eventually going to move toward making that mandatory? Because I would have serious concerns with that. And I had sent a letter in with my dad just about some of the concerns we had, but that was kind of one of them. I just thought I'd address tonight and hear your feedback on that.
This is a possible outcome of the arts of this Applied Research and Training Center. It might be, there'd be certification, especially for those people that were, doing this this proposed maple products specialization, for example, as part of a diploma program.
I think, Chris, you have to separate this. This is a training level at a college level at a certificate getting, no different than if you're going through for RPN or welder or agricultural specialist. you know, the same as what you would have at Ridgetown or the former Kemptville College, all those ag programs. Algonquin has taken over a bunch of these programs, and that's what when you come out, whether there, you're going to have a degree in whatever you're studying. And this is one of them. This is one of the things that if you come out, you'll have a certificate in the making of maple syrup.
Yeah.
Or ROs or whatever the training is for that particular certificate. That's what that certificate means.
Right, but then my concern, I guess, to piggyback onto that is that, so now in order for a guy to go do welding, he has to have that welding certificate in order for, you know, whatever you put the label behind it, you have to have the construction certificate in order to go do that. My concern is that it moves into that for the syrup producers. And then what happens is you have to have a certificate in order to be considered a maple syrup producer. Do you see what I'm getting at?
I see what you're getting at, but that's not what this is.
And I guess, Frank, he's asking, is there an intention to make it mandatory that people have to have certain training to make maple syrup? There is no intention at all of that. This solely is to, for example, equipment manufacturers need more people to be able to go out and service equipment during the season, and sometimes it's RO related, and they wish they could find more people who are skilled in being able to maintain a reverse osmosis or fix the problems in it. They would probably like to have an idea that somebody they could hire who actually has training, and you'd present us, I have training, I've taken this X number of days training in how to repair an RO. That's all that means there at that in that case.
So what you're saying is that there's no intent in the future for it to move into being mandatory. Like that was my original question. I was just
no. This is an offering that if there's enough people who want to do it or wanted to demand, no, there's nothing mandatory. It could well be that the equipment manufacturers, before they hire somebody to look after ROs, may say take it, but we're not trying to make it mandatory. It's just make it as an offering, that's all.
Okay, we have kind of a related question we could move on to from Maple Bluff, Kayla and Trevor. Kayla had some comments in the chat that she's worked in these types of programs, and she'd be happy to share some ideas, and has concerns about bringing, keeping it more inside of OMSPA instead of outside. Do you want to make a couple of quick additions to that, Kayla? And I know Trevor had something to say about that too.
Yeah, no problem, guys. I'll make it quick. I just thought that it might help my background. I have worked a lot in the college system and also in the private sector in education and certifying programs and accreditation and things. And I think that a really great option would be to actually have a grant, a larger grant to initially develop all of this under OMSPA instead of Algonquin College. And then all of the revenue coming in from registration comes right back into OMSPA. And it's all also about intellectual property, because we're now giving Algonquin College all of this information. And we will never get ownership of that back, and we'll never actually get to earn money off of that. And you can actually make that into a more feasible structure for members. Like, members may want to just spend what we're spending right now on our registration fees, but maybe there's a fee structure that's a little bit more, but you have access to all of these programs. We can run them online. You can have them in person at certain farms that are sponsored. Like maybe some of the larger farms that have this equipment can be sites where you can actually do the in-person training. But we're actually keeping all this money within OMSPA instead of giving it all away. I can promise you we will never get that back, because I've been involved throughout these systems. They'll also kind of take it and run with it. And I don't mean anything against Algonquin College. It's anywhere they're a business. They will kind of really try to grab students. And I feel sad for students who might go into these programs thinking that there are a lot of jobs and there aren't. And I say that having worked in healthcare programs as well. Where students that they weren't even successful, but they pump them through and take their money. And anyway, I'm happy to talk more about that another time. I don't want to take up too much time. And I know Trevor had some questions about, some of the information days and how is some of this at Algonquin any different from some of the info days that are really nice community building. And I'm very, very hesitant about this. I think we can develop our own thing that's even better than what a college can do. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And I'd be happy to share my experience. And
Yeah, that's a very generous offer. I think we should probably talk about this offline. You bring some good points. At the same time, being an academic organization, they do have some different revenue streams available. So there, it's there's pros and cons to it. So, but I'd be really interested to chat with you a bit more
for sure.
on your experience.
That's a great answer, Phil. And by the way, there's been more detailed work done on it, which actually, if you look into some of the stuff we've done on MART, it actually talks about actually OMSPA owning MART and having the majority of the board seats on it, etc. And then it'd be available, the information that comes up for training courses to be run at the local level. So you would have control over that for sure at the local levels. Anyways, I'll stop talking. I've been too engaged in the whole process here.
John,
Yeah, hi, Nick.
I've got a few comments about how monies flow from OMSPA to the committees, in particular RTTC. I was on the board for almost 14 years, and I was in the middle of a couple of battles about monies that were supposed to be directed for specifics. And I guess my warning is that as we get more and more sophisticated, we have to look at the internal structure of OMSPA and how monies are protected in terms of when they come in and they go to where they were promised. I can cite all, 3 prime examples. One was about 15 or 16 years ago with Lanark, who donated $16,000 to research, and nobody ever saw that money go to research. My own involvement with the 2010 North American IMSI conference in Stratford. I did the wrap-up funding, and we received $12,500, which I promised in front of the summer tour in Huntsville, and was agreed upon by the Stratford committee that should go to research and promotion. It never saw the light of day. Now, yes.
Sorry, Nick, I'm just going to step in. I think we hear your concern without listing all the details. I would let someone else respond from one of the hosts. I think too, we do have on one of the other nights coming up a structure of OMSPA discussion to go on too.
All I'm saying is, John, that it's a cautionary note that when we say money should flow for research,
For sure.
then it should. And if we don't learn from the mistakes we've made in the past, how can we go ahead successfully?
For sure, I agree. Yeah. And anybody want to respond to that, or?
I know. I mean, I've talked to Nick before about some of the history, and yeah, definitely, it appears that certain things were, we dropped the ball in a number of areas, and yeah, that there's lessons to be learned there that we need to take into account going forward. Yeah, and it's also it's a lot related to the work government relations people are going to do on funding going forward, because these are bold goals that we have, particularly with respect to the SMART, and we need to make sure that we have our structure well established before we so we don't make mistakes that may have been made in the past.
I'm just going to jump in here.
Go, Nelson.
I think where Nick's coming from is back then, OMSPA's budget was probably only about $25,000 a year, and the money back then, if there was surplus money, it went for operations. Usually ended up in operations. When you guys are going to start with this MART Center and all this stuff, and you're going to be talking huge dollars you're gonna need from the government and all the board members and that for accountability. Like, there's gonna have to be a really good structure in there, just like Nick said, to keep the money in flow to where it's going, because the members on the board are gonna be responsible for the final report back to the government where the money went to, and where everything was spent.
For sure. I mean, we know that now with this grassroots grant, there's lots of administration to keep everything on track. So,
But John, I just may want to add about responsibility and accountability. I think there's some movement happening there, and I think some of this will be addressed that way. You may want to comment on some of that, John.
sorry, say it again, Jules. I was just answering a comment there.
Oh, okay. About responsibility and accountability. I mean, there's some development happening there, and I guess some of that can be overseen by that process. Do you have any comment on that?
Sure, I can comment on it, just to refer you to tomorrow evening's discussion on governance. And that's Bob Snyder's responsibility and putting the right appropriate structures in place, representation, the control and report and relationships, etc. So Bob can wait until tomorrow evening, or you can say this evening that that's getting in hand, whatever you want to do, Bob.
Thanks, Randall, for pointing that out. That's what I just wanted you to say what you just did, so that it will get covered. So thanks, Randall.
Xavier, you had a comment too about the certification issue. Do you want to expand on that briefly, or? Are you there?
I might.
Oh, there you are. Oh, sure, the
Unmute me,
lecture.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. Do you have an
You're
echo?
good. No, you're good now.
Okay, my question is, if this is the strategic plan for the future direction of OMSPA, and the intermediate goal is to make Ontario syrup be recognized as having a higher quality, then how are you going to do that without certification? And since it's written in the plan, does that not provide the support for OMSPA to make the certification mandatory?
I don't see where it says certification under the MARC program or under the member services.
So it's Bob
Is-
here.
Are
If I
we
can
talking
just,
about quality assurance?
if I can just make a comment here.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
The strategic goals for the next 5 years, nowhere does it say certification. There is a comment in the strategic plan that the board should consider and look at it, whether it has any place, but there's nowhere in the strategic plan does it say the goal is certification.
And just to answer the question of, we have calling for this vision of OMSPA with, a premium value on Ontario maple syrup based on quality. That's really part and parcel of the marketing and branding. And so certainly, again, that's going to be covered in another evening. But, if you associate this vision for association of Ontario maple syrup with high quality, a large part of that is branding, like the marketing aspect.
Thanks, George, for that clarification, and Bob. So we also have, sorry, I'm just trying to get through here. Maple Bluff, Trevor, I guess, these are volunteer OMSPA board members versus Algonquin college paid staff, we need to consider how much time board members have to address it regularly. Yeah. Did you want to add anything more to that, Trevor or Kale?
No, we're just kind of overall commenting on everybody else's comments and agreeing with some of the members' concerns. And I appreciate that there's a majority OMSPA board member as part of the training center. But I think my point is that the Algonquin staff are all going to be paid, and I don't know how many of our OMSPA staff are paid. So motivation and time and other commitments kind of take over there, and it kind of aligns with some of Zaver's points with the strategic plan and some of the wording in there. And I think things just need to be really, really clear and very, very carefully considered before we make decisions and prioritize things.
Yeah, I mean,
I can answer that question, Caleb, quite easily, as none of us board of directors get paid.
I'm the only paid person on this call, and
Liz is
I
on.
think that's my point, is like when we are working with a dominantly volunteer network, you have to consider how much work and priority, and when there's other headaches going on, like how much manpower do we have to devote to that side of it. When we have another, it's very, very easy to kind of say like, okay, I'm sure they have our best interest in mind. Just kind of keep us updated on everything that's happening. It's really easy to kind of lose sight of that when we're not directly involved in it. So that's my point about almost everybody is going to be volunteer on that board. So it doesn't matter how many seats we have, it's how much time and quality, it's the quality of seats that we have. Not saying that no one's doing enough work, it's just how much time do we have to devote to those pieces.
Fair enough. No, it makes sense.
It's Randall. You may notice that we've got that in a timeline, so it's not something that we jump into holus bolus. There's a timeline for negotiations, a timeline for considerations, whether we move right or left or upside down or whatever direction, it will be in consultation with what's best for our members in our organization. So we're not trying to jump on things right away. You'll notice in the timeline associated with these activities, it's over a period of time where we can have proper consideration. And again, what we're talking about, a strategic plan, is a plan for the future, aiming towards the future, but we're not going to go to bad places. We're going to take our time to figure it out.
I appreciate that. And I think that's, I appreciate you saying that. I think it comes back to Zaver's point too, about anything that's written in a strategic plan, that holds a lot of power, anything that's worded in there. So even though there's a timeline and everything, and we are taking our time, it's all still written in there. And I think I mentioned in my comments, I've worked on several municipal level strategic plans, and some things have gone really sideways because they were written in there, and it doesn't matter how it's written, because those words were in there, you can really take it in a different direction. And I think that's why we have to be very, very careful and just be really careful how we're wording this, and even specific names and titles and timelines.
Yeah.
Now this may be an important point of clarification, but the MART Center staff, the MART Center staff wouldn't be Algonquin employees. They would be employees of the MART Center, and Algonquin would, the vision is that Algonquin is providing office space and administration support.
There's also, thanks, George. Xavier asked if any details are available on the MOU with Algonquin College regarding, what level of financial commitment is necessary from OMSPA and things like that. Phil, do you have any comment on that?
Well, all we have at this point is a letter of intent. It's very broad, so that's why we've got like a 3-year timeline to even get this off the ground. So there is no there's no commitment financially or otherwise at this point, other than an intent to pursue it over the next while.
Phil.
I think we really have to be careful about even naming Algonquin College in the strategic plan, even if it is a letter of intent. Like, that's still, still all comes back to the same thing. And I'm even seeing in the comments that there are a number of people that are feeling pretty concerned about all of this and certification and what this all means.
Well, yeah, certification certainly isn't going away. It's back here in the chat again. There's been an ask, would we be willing to put in writing that certification will not be required in the new strategic plan? Based on what I heard Bob said, that would be decided at a later date. That's something to consider as part of the whole thing. Does anybody want to speak further to that?
So there is a draft of the plan for everyone's perusal, and it does not include certification. It as Bob said, it right now says that in 3 years, or sorry, I'm not even sure it has a timeline, but it says that the board should in the future look at this issue. And so I think, people are obviously really concerned about this. So it would be excellent if there was some input, looking at the words of the strategic plan and suggesting alternatives that would, that would let everybody take ownership of the plan and feel comfortable about it.
Mm-hmm.
So other options to achieve whatever goals might have been achieved with certification. Is that what you're saying?
I think the only commitment is to look at it. It's not to mandate it or enforce it. From a responsibility perspective, it's responsible for us to know what's happening in New York and Vermont. And if they start doing certain things, we got to be aware of that and understand whether we need to respond to it. Make our members aware of it. If we need to respond to it, and making sure we protect our marketplace. So no, we're just keeping a very good watching brief on what may happen in other jurisdictions and making sure that we remain competitive. And that's all really what that is, that we would give serious considerations to anything that looks like certification from anywhere. And so that's all that says there. It doesn't.
And this language around certification came right out of the quality assurance working group, right? And so that was a group of your peers that really spent a lot of time looking at this. I was supporting that group. And so I know that it was clearly recognized in that group that certification was a highly contentious issue. And it was also recognized that it might be important to the future, and other jurisdictions were looking at it. So the decision was made to not in any way say, by year 3.5, OMSPA should have a certification program in place that is mandatory for all members. Like that was absolutely no. What the language was meant to convey is that, down the road in the middle of this kind of strategic planning period, this is an important issue and the board should take a real look at it. So if that's too much, we need to hear that. Let's make the language so it's something that everybody's comfortable with. I think we can do that.
I think the language you need to change is just eliminate the word certification and put in quality assurance program. Okay, go back to like the SEAL quality program, eliminate certification, make it a voluntary quality assurance program. I know to ship syrup, like I'm not sure how Chris and Dave are doing it with theirs. They're packing a lot of syrup. So are these stores not wanting certification from you that you're purchasing from, qualified producers? I know when we ship to Jakeman's and places like that, they have paperwork you got to fill out. If you want to ship it to LB Maple in Quebec, you got to have paperwork filled out showing that your qualifications for making syrup. So the certification is a word that nobody wants. So eliminate it and make it into a quality assurance program.
Yeah,
I
like-
believe Wagler's our CFI inspected, so.
But,
John,
can I add, Randall? It's Jules, to Nelson's comment. So Nelson's talking about certification of quality of syrup. I just can tell you, a Forester has showed up down here in Eastern. He's a younger man. He's been trained in college and everything. And the certification I'm hearing here is certification that this fellow has a specialty in maple industry. So he has some certification in that specific thing from a college. So we've got two types of certification going on here tonight. So if I'm looking for people coming out of the college with a certification to work in this industry, I think it stands better than someone who just says, I can do some pipeline installation, but I've never been certified. I think so. We have to also not lose that sight of the employees that are coming from college that have some certification, RO, pipeline installation, evaporator, troubleshooting, whatever. So don't forget that certification does.
thanks,
Nelson,
Jules.
Nelson, if you could email those comments into to John Williams, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Could we go
Is Dan
to?
here? Is Dan
Can
here?
we
I just
go-
wanted to follow up with Jules' comments, and it's very well put. If I could only figure out how to put a message on chat, that would have been so simple about 10 minutes ago. That's all I wanted to support. Way to go, Jules. Thank you. I'll be quiet now.
No, that's good. Appreciate the comments, Dan.
It's Randall. Can we go back to that one page that talks about, that has the 6 pillars there? John?
Phil's got that.
Phil, go back to, not those ones, the one that might have happened before. Okay. Okay, you see here that we have these various pillars, and the ones that are bolded are the ones we're doing this evening. You'll find the next session will bold the ones that we're looking at tomorrow night and on Thursday night. And you see under quality assurance here, we talked about the best practices manual renewal. We've all agreed that that needs to be done. A significant focus on member training and adoption of that best practices. That's things we've been doing for many years. We just have to do it with more vigor. And then it says a serious consideration by OMSPA of a certification program in association with the proposed marketing branding campaign. Here's a thought. Let's say, for example, that Vermont moves towards a carbon neutral or a carbon negative maple syrup and grabs that as a premium recognition. Now, we may say, if we want to say we're super duper quality, just as good as or better than Vermont, we may say, we need to probably assess the carbon negative or the carbon neutrality of our product. And then based upon that assessment, we can say our product, our maple syrup in Ontario is carbon neutral, carbon negative. Those actually came significantly out of those recommendations came out of the climate change working group. To give you an example of what other commodity groups are doing beyond maple, look at the new e-newsletter that was just sent out today on November 1st. And there's a thing in there by the Dairy Farmers of Canada and how important they feel that selling their products into the future, they have to be carbon neutral. So it could well be that as we see, and again, that's there. We've already done some assessments. Ours are carbon neutral or carbon negative. Excuse me. As a product, our maple syrup is. But we probably need to have that certified to say that it is actually carbon neutral, carbon negative. And so that could be one of the things that supports our marketing and branding campaign. So certification of a product versus of the producer may be one form of certification as well. But we're not moving there until it either gives us a market advantage to claim it, or it is a market defense. So certification, I know, is a lightning rod, because people think about it only in one way, but there's other ways of thinking about it too, as well.
So should we, would that be more appropriate then maybe for us to continue to focus on certification on that one? Is that tomorrow night, Randall?
It's,
That's on Thursday.
Thursday night, yeah. This would give some time for reflection in between now and then. Are there any other, I think we've done a pretty good job for the moment anyway on certification. Is there any other comments that people would like to bring forth? I'm just gonna look through my list here and see if there's anybody that, Mark, Mark Curl, I know you had a comment in the chat. Did you want to speak to that briefly? Are you there, Mark? There you are.
Hear me?
Yeah, can hear you now.
Okay, no, I just wondered if there's any thought to that. That way we keep money like has worked in Ontario before. We were actually mentors for mentees. They pay so much to, it was with Farms at Work that actually ran it. OMSA run the same thing. You have they come and they see what kind of outfit you're running and whatever, and they take that you're able to handle, like teach these people something. So we had 6 different days, 6 different things we had to go through, and we put them through it. And then at the end, they had, I don't know if we give them certification, but anyways, what I think here, it's going to bring those people on, because most of those people that took that are members in the association. So you got new members there too, but you're going to have an income from being a mentor.
Right, that was the mentorship program you're talking about.
Right, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know, I don't know specifically, Phil, has mentorship program been examined in terms of the training and whatnot, or would that be something that could be considered?
One thing that's a little bit related, there's this idea of, and there's a lot of work that's been done by the various locals on training. And one of the objectives that we're proposing is to, try to work with the various locals to make sure that what is being offered training wise is up to some standard that's yet really to be determined. But anyway, just basically curating the training that's available. So mentoring is kind of mentoring mentee is kind of a one-on-one sort of thing. That's not exactly the same thing, but it's somewhat related. So I think we'd want to be sure that we had some assurance that if we got into something like this, that there would be sufficient rigor in the mentoring side of things, to make it useful for someone just coming, learning the craft, so to speak.
Yeah, consistency. Yeah. Terry, Terry Linton, I noticed you're unmuted. Did you have a comment you wanted to make? No? Okay. I've got a few other people on here who haven't made any comments yet. Brian Bartley, Cameron Davis. Any of you folks interested in throwing your 2 cents into the ring here on the topics tonight?
I guess one point I have, do you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you, Brian. Yeah.
Okay. One point I heard that maybe we should use quality assurance program instead of certification. And I think that has different definitions, but I've written them for industry, and they are very complex. And for a single person operation, it would be, you would spend all day filling out forms and getting nothing done. I don't think you want to use that word. And I think that's why we have a best practices manual. Certification, at least it's one and done, but a quality assurance program, if it's you know, if it's interpreted as like an ISO program or something, it's very, it involves an awful lot of documentation.
I know too, from my understanding, the voluntary program we did have, one of the problems was it was voluntary. That's the, what was it called again? Sorry, I'm blanking.
Insurance. Quality assurance.
No, it was
Quality of seal.
seal of quality.
Quality, that's right, yeah.
That you had, you know, some people were using it that weren't in part of the program or inspected, and so yeah, it's a whole kettle of fish.
Got to be very divisive too.
Yeah.
And I guess my other concerns, going back earlier, I made a couple of comments. I sort of agree with the whole idea of we're losing our intellectual property, you know, possibly with partnering with the college. And I think in terms of training, we have, you know, a manual that has, you know, great information that, you know, we could do training internally, you know, I think. And in terms of research, I really question what research we could do that is really going to help us. You know, it's nice to have our own research center, but we already have, you know, several centers in North America that are doing this sort of thing, you know, and are we going to add any real value to members by trying to do more? I mean,
Yeah, I think Phil would have something to say on that, because I think there has been some talk on that, right? Yeah,
there's a lot of good work that's being done in various jurisdictions, and we're in no sense proposing that we reinvent the wheel. I mean, we've been very focused on the areas that we've gone after because, frankly speaking, we've had a very limited budget up to this point. But there's been some good stuff done on, you know, mold studies and you know, currently, as probably most people know, we're working with Carleton on this Buddy Sap project. I think Dr. DeRose was just speaking at the North American Maple Syrup Conference last week, and from what I understand, had a very positive response out of that. So I mean, but we're very targeted.
Is it more? I think you're talking
necessity
more application of research, right, Phil, than
well,
actually a lot
the
of
applied
primary research?
I mean, it's how to take what's being done for the most part elsewhere and apply it to the Ontario situation. You know, we've got, for example, the Canadian Shield. There's you know, acidification issues that may be kind of specific to our area. That's an example. You know, the Buddy Sap is a more broad issue, but you know, it's an application to our own geography. That's you know, one aspect.
I think, you know, sometimes when we use certain words, they conjure up thoughts in people's mind. And one of those words is center, you know, applied research and training center. And we go like, oh my, that's going to be bricks and mortars. And it's not that. It's actually the function of being a matchmaker between what our needs are that we identify as an industry and where the supply comes from to meet those needs. So that's a matchmaking process. It's not to create bricks and mortar by any form of imagination. It is to say, here's the best places we can satisfy those identified needs from. It could also be, we haven't been able to find anything. Maybe we need to focus on that and only that, and generally do it in partnership with others who have also got those needs, others being other provinces or states. And so it's more of a matchmaking dating service type of thing versus is actually a bricks and mortar undertaking. There's no bricks and mortar undertaking here at all.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian, for the comments. So much appreciated. Dan, I see you've just unmuted.
Yeah, again here, that I'm struggling with this damn chat button. But anyways, just throwing this out here, like all we're from what Randall and I'm hearing, it's basically going to become a desk where all of the good research and the new information will be transferred. That's what I'm getting out of this, because we've kind of lost a lot of it from, because the province used to be a little bit more active with this. but now we've had a step back. And I believe it's a great step in the right direction to actually get a training center or program of some kind, because we all know what our labor force is doing. It's all dwindling. And if anything that can actually enhance that to actually help producers get qualified people in the bush. And I see where this program has great merit. Of course, it's going to take a lot of work to actually get it off the ground. But I tip my hat to those that actually want to see it go forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. There's a question in the chat from Xavier, basically saying, how are we going to demonstrate each pillar has majority support of the membership? Randall, do you want to comment? I think you have the idea of how we will move towards approval in your mind.
Yeah, what's being proposed at this time as a potential way of doing that is that we will have a survey that goes out, and it will have each pillar described by its name and what it wants to achieve, or proposes. The proposes that we undertake versus no commitment, but like, here's the directions we want to head in, and there will be sort of a range of support gauged from that by the type of responses that we get to it, and it'd be pillar by pillar, and that would happen. I believe it's February, near the end of, near the end of February?
I think it's January more, because we have to take for approval at the board in early February. So
yeah, so it's the end of February, early March then. Yes, of course. Yeah.
Also, I'm just noticing we haven't really discussed much on the member services side of things. What people, want to see, the services and benefits that OMSPA provides to its members. And wondering if anybody's got anything to add on that, or Bob, would you like to speak a bit more to that?
John, if you were addressing me, sorry, it broke up there.
Oh, okay. I was just pointing out that we haven't really had a lot of discussion on the member services pillar, as far as what people would like to see as services and benefits from OMSPA. And I'm wondering if you wanted to add anything there, or whether anyone else did.
Yeah, I'll add that the survey gave us a good indication of what types of services, and maybe I should have elaborated a bit more on what member services includes, things like the jug program, the member discounts, and whether there are other services that, and I briefly mentioned carbon credits, and whether those are areas that could be enhanced to add more value for the membership. The training aspects are outside of what we consider member services. The marketing and promotion is outside of what we consider member services, though they do benefit members. It's more the direct benefits that a member can receive from the association.
Bob, one of the suggestions that did come up about member benefits was whether we could become a pool for being able to get insurance and things of that nature. That some people have suggested that, whether that might be a possibility. But again, we need to explore what people really want, and that's one of the ones that came up. But until we move forward and go deeper on those things, our plan is to look at those things, but we need to work with members to understand what are those things that they really want to have added in as benefits to being part of the membership.
And those types of ideas need to be scoped out in terms of feasibility, and what would be feasible, because it just might not be possible to provide full-blown crop insurance, but some aspects might be possible.
Or Bob, if the insurance was related to even group insurance for liability and things of that nature, I guess it's a broader scope than just crop insurance. But again, a plan is a plan to look at these things. It is not a commitment to implement the thing. I think I just need to remind people of that. Here's our work plan over the next 5 years about what we plan to think about and work on, but not a commitment to actually implement. The implementation commitment comes at the response of the membership to what's being proposed at some point in time when there's actually a proposal on something very specific.
Fair enough. Yeah, Jules has put some specifics down there in the comments for us to see, so. Any further comments there? Just looking through the list again to see if there's Brian Bainborough, we haven't heard from you tonight. Whether you had anything to add. Terry, we've seen lots of, oh, there you are, okay. Brian? See, you've unmuted.
Muted and unmuted. There it goes.
Yeah.
No, I'm just listening. It's good stuff here. A lot of work gone into this.
Okay. Terry, anything you'd like to add? You've see some comments in the chat, but any comments you'd like to make? Isn't Terry Hoover?
John?
Yes, Randall.
You may want to ask Pierrette what she thinks she's heard, or what her feelings are as well.
I think you just did.
Yeah, Pierrette. Put you on the spot without making you, too much on the spot, but I know you have good insights on things.
Forgot what I said already. It's recorded.
So some good information came out of that. Good to hear. Glad that there was some clarification between the word certification. I think you guys, everybody on the call here understands the different one is certification from getting skills and developing knowledge, and then there's certification for your quality assurance, which we'll be talking later maybe. But glad to see that people are interacting and providing some feedback. Strategic planning is not easy, and the more we get feedback, the more we're better able to have a final product that's going to resemble what the association members are looking for. So glad to see that people are participating, and I'll be coming in tomorrow, hopefully, to see the next subjects or topics.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Well,
Okay.
John, it's 9 o'clock.
Yeah, that's probably just about perfect. I think we've had lots of good discussion, and
yeah.
Are you ready to wrap up, Frank?
I think that should be it for tonight. We said we keep it to an hour and a half if possible, and we've had a lot of discussion tonight, and some small debates, and we see where people are talking about mandatory certification, and I don't think I saw that anywhere in our strat plan, unless George added in on me somewhere. But I think that's something we can discuss on the night for the quality assurance. Phil and Bob, thank you very much for your hard work. You and your group and all your members you had working with you to come up with the ideas that you've had. Again, Dan, thank you very much for explaining what we were trying to set a goal here is to bring young producers in and to teach courses and just to teach how to make better maple syrup in this province. And again, it's a strat plan. It's just a plan. There's nothing cast in concrete here or stone. And you got to remember, a lot of us will not be here when some of this strat plan we put in place. We'll be retired or whatever. And it's it's a case where you have to look at it and you have to run with it and develop it. And in 2028, you need to look at it again and go further with this. So it's a start. It's a start to a long road. And again, nothing's cast in stone or concrete, but it does give us a goal and a path. And it does give a MAFRA an idea of where we're heading as an agriculture association, a commodity group with chances of growing the economy in this province. The opportunity is there for all of us and for people coming behind us. So let's hope we can give them direction in that. Do we have to format a few things differently? Possibly, but your comments coming back to us will help us make that final plan come forth. And I want to thank you all for being here tonight, hopefully tomorrow night and a night after. Good night, everyone.
Great. Thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow, hopefully.
Thank you.
Night.
Very nice.